This is a fun rabbit hole to go down to.
And also a delicious cookie. I quite like Nutter Butters.
Made Daily. Hello and welcome to the Made Daily podcast. I'm John Michael Thomas.
I'm Pierre Hegeman.
Made Daily covers our favorite online stories from tech to social media.
Our expert, usually, thoughts and opinions about information security, website design, and development.
And other stories from across the internet. Today's episode of Made Daily is made possible by Cinemechanics, the premier camera and lens rental house in Minneapolis. If you shooting that next film or need to rent the Bolt Cinebot, do some cool shots, Cinemechanics will make sure your project stays next level.
And Made Daily version 5, the all-in-one secure website builder with built-in data collection tools, secure customer portals, and a live streaming event coming in June.
And one of our way back internet favorites, made MTV Fashionably Loud. A little deviation from our typical cybersecurity downer talk. Just kidding. It's all good. It's all good. It's all learning. An area I'm always get really excited about, which is content. And I caught a couple things that I thought would be really interesting to talk about. There's some interesting things, as you know, everything's shifting again. And Pierre, we talk about this all the time about everything that you make should be content first and content driven. That's how we approach our websites. And something we've kicked around for a long time is, why haven't people leveraged content in a narrative form as a vehicle to market their business? And so I came across this really great example called Brooklyn Coffee Shop. It's an Instagram series. That's where I found it. And they've got 80,000 followers and 34 posts, and it's just a great example. So let me share this screen here. It's a coffee shop in Brooklyn with characters that come in to buy coffee and meet with each other. It's a simple concept. It's really well written. And I believe the story is the gal behind it worked a coffee shop and is also a content creator and an actress, and created this series. And they wrapped season 1 and they're working on season 2 and 22 episodes. And it's just a nice, fantastic piece of content and using new media in the way that I think we're heading and should be heading. But the thing is with this is I have not yet confirmed whether or not this is an actual coffee shop. I believe it's a make-believe coffee shop.
Yeah, it looks more like entertainment than marketing, which is probably one of the reasons for its success, right?
Right. But then what happens when you combine the entertainment and if this was actually a real coffee shop? And I think that would be something where I'm sure if this place exists in Brooklyn, people are going to go, this is where they film the thing. But now what if you take it I mean, we do that anyway, right? We go to places where they go to, buildings and things where they shot Fargo, or everybody hangs outside that house from Breaking Bad. But like, what if this was an actual brand? And I think this is something that someone's going to strike on this. It happened way a long time ago with B&W Films.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting this. And I think it's just a terrific little series, and just a great way for characters to develop within this space. I think it's really terrific.
I think that brands or companies or businesses making engaging content is definitely key. I would be curious to see if something like this were made for marketing if it would be accepted. My feeling is that if the if it's very entertaining, the marketing side of it may be tolerated, right? It's kind of like a promotional consideration provided by, and people would be like, okay, but I like the show, so I'm going to watch it, right? But I think if it was too heavy-handed, you might get some blowback.
I think when Target tried to do it with, they'd had a 4-part series with Kristen Bell, and it was a love story. She was played a interior designer who fell in love with somebody in the thing, if I remember correctly. But it was all about shoppable video.
Mm.
And it was when I worked at an agency in town here, they were doing something like that. And my take on that was so bad. It was again forced.
Yeah.
And not a well written, compelling, entertaining thing. Now, if it had been, or if they had really focused more on the content than the stuff, I think that, to your point, I think the distinction that I'll just make is there's an opportunity for a brand to just make content, make really good content, and say, hey, we make really good content too. They don't have to force feed down the brand. They don't have to. It could just be, this could have took place in a Starbucks,
right?
And that's all the affiliation. That's all the further the affiliation needed to be.
Yeah, kind of like Seinfeld always has the logo for the cafe. I think that one's fake, but it could have been a real one. You actually where
the
I see
diner, the diner,
the
the diner,
the
yeah,
diner, yeah. Where I see this all the time is actually in the Korean dramas, where they'll have like real restaurants, real places featured, and it's just a location that the show is taking place in. But they'll pan up to the place, and then they'll show the people making the food or whatever, and so you see that all the time, and it sometimes it's like, okay, enough, but it's not so annoying as I think. In the case of the Target thing, they probably went, like you were saying, it's 50% marketing, 50% narrative, where it needs to be like 99% narrative and 1% market, or a few. It's got to go way, way lighter on that marketing. Otherwise, people are just gonna be like, "Nah, oh my god, this is stupid."
Yeah, and embracing the format, like this show here, it's the same camera angles, the same backgrounds. It's just different people mixed in, and they just know how to produce it.
And I think that's the key too. Is it has to be good, right? If it's not good, then you're not gonna get anything.
Yeah. And it's also kind of interesting because it also reminded me of Kevin Smith and his Clerks movie from back in the day with just the two guys. I mean, they should just revise that and just do it as an Instagram show. Jay and Silent Bob standing outside a gas station, and just start making episodes with an iPhone and post and walk away. Like improv the thing.
We should do a spoof of like Office Space for our Made Daily stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like beating up the printer or whatever.
So I encourage everybody to check out BK Coffee Shop. Give them a couple more followers and let us know what you think. Another thing, since we're on this topic of content, I wanted to showcase a local guy who was doing these spots or these 1-minute tours. John O'Sullivan, he started this TikTok. I believe he started this during the pandemic. He just started doing little tours of things around the Twin Cities here, and he just does a really great job. And I've learned a ton of about little tidbits of our community, which I think this is, again, another great use of leveraging this new form of storytelling to get the word out, and in micro doses, right? In little small doses. And it takes a bit to pack in a lot of information in a minute, and it's a different way of working. And he does a lot of this as a one-man band. And now he's gone on and he's creating a new show called The Hidden Middle. They just had a Kickstarter, which is going to be similar but a little bit more refined, about stories from the Midwest. Um, Again, I think it's kind of cool. I think this is a trend that I would like to see happening across communities all over, whether it's here or, um, you know, Brooklyn, New York, indigenous country. It would be really great to be able to kind of see this really niche content about the area we're from.
Yeah,
So,
these are really cool, and you know, um, you don't see a lot of like hyper local content coming from Netflix or the big, the big um, content companies. So, well, I think the only way you would get anything like this is from people like this guy, like
right.
John, making stuff.
So again, if you're looking for stuff to do, I mean, that's the other kind of neat thing too is, this is a new way of cataloging things to do rather than just a website where it's a blog. You actually can kind of quick spin through. You know what? Let's go down and play. Let's go down to Tilt and play some pinball. Or if you haven't explored the Minneapolis Skyway, that's kind of an interesting experience. Trying to find your way through the maze, the Matrix, as it's been nicknamed. So yeah, props to John and Hidden Middle
Yeah,
for doing this. And then another one that I thought of as a way back thing is this piece that I remember seeing. I think this is back in let's see, gosh, I want to see around 2000, in the early 2000s. We can look that up and put it in the blog post. Yeah, 2000. So this piece was produced by a bunch of kids who just graduated art school. Jonathan Natoro and this animator Jens Gelhar. They created this really cool piece, and at the time it was pretty groundbreaking because it was really well designed.
Hmm.
But then when you kind of just deconstruct it, as we like to do with motion, as motion graphics artists, you just go, oh my gosh, this guy just rotoscoped these models for hours and hours and hours.
That'd be so much easier to make now.
He says in his post it took him three, let's see, 3 weeks, 3 weeks of detailed rotoscoping, and then they created all these little animated patterns and wove them into all the fashion. And I thought it was a really clever, unique way of celebrating kind of like this MTV Fashionably Loud fashion show program they were putting together. But they really did a nice job combining like graphics. I thought it was a nice, innovative use of motion graphics at the time, and it was a big hit.
Hmm.
It earned a bunch of awards. It was when AIGA had a design conference. This was one of the winners when I went out to it in New York for the awards when the agency, and when I heard when they talked about it, it was one of those things too where they just set the digital camera up and shot it in the office corner, and I thought that's kind of also was again kind of this theme of like at the time this is a really DIY way of getting something done, and they were using their animation skills and how they used to craft things at art school to make stuff. So I thought this was at the time this was a pretty cool piece.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder why. So, other than I guess the main challenge for marketing, for creating stuff like this, it may just be the creativity, probably timelines, deadlines. Like, what is preventing people from doing this other than just the will to do it?
Preventing people?
Yeah, because like we're talking about you know, the value of narrative content in marketing a brand or marketing a company. And so I guess I would say probably the biggest barrier to that is the it would be marketing budgets, because that would be a high budget, you know, undertaking with no guarantee really of, success, or when, the marketing director might be like, well, let's just make a commercial instead.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I think it's risk reward,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, I don't think that this stuff is right for every kind of brand, but I find it amazing still that there are big brands who haven't embraced narrative content.
Mm.
They'll do some like they'll take like kind of like the Fashionably Loud example and do a commercial for Nike or whatever, and it'll be a big splash. Um, but it's different than if they were to put that time into actually creating something, you know, that we might actually kind of it might catch on in. But yes, I mean, there's production budgets.
Right.
But again, I like this last example here, it's a small team.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were, let's go to the bottom of this. There were 6 people who worked on that whole series, from you know photographer to producer to animator, one guy doing design and stuff. So I mean, small teams, if you get the right team,
Yeah.
could be making that stuff. And I imagine the Brooklyn Coffee Shop, I mean, it's produced in a way that you can get that stuff done. I think that, to your point, I mean, just generally, people just need to experiment,
Yeah.
and people just need to have more fun with their marketing. There's that oh gosh, I can't remember it. There's another one. I can't remember it. There's another thing that everybody references on. It's a brand, and if you go to their TikTok, it's all like Salvador Dali kind of weird stuff. It was Nutter Butter. This is the site that everybody's talking about, which is like
It reminds me of the
it's it's like early, you know, multimedia art in some ways.
yeah. That reminds me of the We Like the Moon guy that Quiznos bought that, right, for their commercial. It looks the same. Same kind of stuff.
This is a fun rabbit hole to go down to. Um,
And also a delicious cookie. I quite like Nutter Butters.
13 million views of this one. Just another Butters at the scary house with the scary, spooky house music. What went on there? Murder. Yeah, good
Nice.
times. And some of the comments are always like funny too. This crosses a boundary I didn't know I had. Nutter Butter, what is this? This Adult Swims.
Yeah.
Is this Resident Evil 7? So yeah, there's lots of good stuff out there. But again, the point is they stuck with this thing, and they've been going with this, and they own this, like goofy, like crazy thing. And the team that gets to do this stuff must just, must have a blast. Like, I just think I mean, it's time for people to just kind of have a point of view and run with it and be different.
Hmm.
And that's why some brands that we know and that has stand out, they've taken that, point of view, and they build loyalty that way. And I think there's just a huge opportunity for leveraging narrative content. But it's not for every brand, but it's for the right brands. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it seems like that would have to kind of be a social media kind of thing too. Like it wouldn't work as TV necessarily.
I think if you had, we talked on a while back about Starbucks was getting into the entertainment game. And what I found interesting about that was they hired a really good producer and known for creating TV series and things, but they also have their own app.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting. Like if the entertainment was good and they launched it and you could tune in on Monday and they drop new episodes every Monday, there could be something there. But they're the big enough brand where they can try something like that. You know, Apple didn't get into Apple TV and make, Ted Lasso, right away. They built a brand, and then they have devices that we can view content on, and they moved into making some of the best content in TV right now, which is interesting.
Yeah, though I'd be interested in seeing, so yeah, Apple can do it. Amazon they make their own TV shows, but I think that's less interesting to me than seeing smaller companies, because Amazon is basically a media company, and Apple too, right? Yeah.
But in that, like we were talking about the Jay and Silent Bob and the Clerks example, it would be super funny if your local gas station, just started making content. There is another one about that, a car company, like a car dealership. There's a series out there where they recreated The Office. They basically made their own version of The Office, but it's set in their car dealership, which has gotten like a ton of views too. But it's different, and it's not as simple as the Brooklyn Coffee Shop example. How perfect that is for the medium of Instagram, So yeah. Well, I wanted to share some fun stuff with everybody today. Thanks for joining us. If you want to check out any stories or topics, head over to maydaily.com/blog, and you can check out these videos. We'll post them up there.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the button.
Until next time,
stay secure.
Made Daily.